All right. Big news out there has been sanctuary cities. You know, Lafayette, this is before you were sheriff, was deemed as a sanctuary city. First of all, is Lafayette a sanctuary city? New Orleans is a sanctuary city and bragging about it. So
well,
talk a little bit about this, but I want to get in the bigger picture, not that. But I'm just kind of curious.
Okay, well, let's tackle that issue
that.
first.
Okay.
Let's talk about whether or not Lafayette ever was a sanctuary city, because that was something that, as some of you know, came up in the campaign. Used by one of the local candidates for sheriff who was unsuccessful.
The only time I saw it was then. I never saw it before or since.
Nobody knew about it except this think tank called Centers for Immigration Studies, which is not a government agency, and they, at their own behest, had created a map of the United States and had located or demarcated cities and jurisdictions that had some kind of policy that was adverse to immigration enforcement. Whether or not it was a full policy or a partial policy, they had put Lafayette on the map as being adverse to some type of immigration enforcement.
So it basically popped up on somebody's list.
It was a private website.
Okay.
So that was it. I have correspondence from the federal government that says that they did not, at that time, recognize the term sanctuary city. They didn't recognize it. They didn't use it. It was not in their vernacular. And when I was telling them to get me off the list, and what do I have to do to get off the list during the transition, they had no idea what I was talking about.
They didn't know how you got on the list.
Told me to address it with this private entity. So looking at what Lafayette was doing was really illuminating, because we weren't a full sanctuary city to the extent that other jurisdictions such as New Orleans are. Sheriff Newstrom, back in 2014, had written a letter to Immigration Customs Enforcement that simply stated, we are unable to, in good faith, honor the permissive detainer request that you file with us because other jurisdictions have been sued. So what does that mean to the guy on the street, right? What's a permissive detainer request? I'll give you an example that seems to make sense to most people. So, Johnny gets arrested for misdemeanor battery, okay, in a domestic dispute, let's say. And he comes to Lafayette Parish Correctional Center, and he's undocumented. We find out he's undocumented during the booking process, because if we're going to book you into jail, we got to find out who you are. And we find out that you don't have any lawful presence in the United States or anything like that. We can't find that you're illegal because we don't have the jurisdiction to determine legal status or illegal status. Only an immigration judge can do that. Okay. So by law, we notify ICE. Hey, we have someone here who we reasonably suspect to be in the United States without lawful presence. ICE then sends us a fax that says, please detain this person for 48 hours while we investigate further. Sounds good, right? Sounds pretty rock solid. What happened in other jurisdictions is they would go ahead and detain them. The person would bond out on the underlying battery charge. So now they're free to go but for this detainer request from ICE. This is not a warrant. It's not been reviewed for probable cause. It's not signed by a judge. It is simply hold this person on suspicion of wrongdoing. So they took these actions to federal court under illegal detention, 1983, or whatever legal theory applied, and were successful in getting monetary judgments against these jurisdictions. And so the approach the prior administration took here in Lafayette Parish was to simply stop doing it. Okay. During the campaign, when it came up, I said, I'm going to take a different approach. And in fact, I did. Took office on July 1st. By the time July 13th rolled around, which is the date of my letter to ICE, I had already rescinded this policy by the prior administration.
Okay. So that's where we sit today.
Correct.
What about, and I don't know if you can look at it from a distance, like when New Orleans or San Francisco and some of these cities are jumping up, they're sticking their chests out and saying, I'm a sanctuary city. Just your thoughts on that. I mean, are they, I'm not talking about particular cities, but are they sticking their chests out at the federal laws and the laws, immigration laws that we do have?
It's hard to understand. It's hard for me to understand why an elected official in the United States would consider that to be a good idea. But
it's hard for me to understand that too.
I don't want to speak out of turn. I wouldn't want them talking about decisions that I made here in Lafayette Parish that I thought were for the best thing for this parish. But I just don't understand it.
Most of the immigration laws we have in this country probably come down through the federal government. Am I wrong by saying that? I'm talking about most of them. I didn't say them all, but for the most part, they kind of handle it. You mentioned ICE.
They exclusively come through the federal government.
Okay, I thought so. So in other words, when you find something that's not right, like you talked about the example, you call them and say, hey, you got to come check it out.
That's right.
That's simple? Oh, okay, we need some water on the spot. Hold your thought right here. Hold your thought. That way I can catch your breath. Because everybody's got sinus mess. I was taking so much stuff this morning, I feel like I'm drugged out. Don't arrest me. It's all legal.
Well, you get behind the wheel, I might have to take some kind of enforcement action.
Well, it was Zyrtec and Tylenol. So if you can get me, brother, I'm in trouble.
All right, we're going to get you after the show. Here's the thing.
Go ahead.
Louisiana had a law on the books for several years. It was operating a vehicle without lawful presence in the United States. That was a felony. So if a police officer stopped Moon Griffon and you could not prove that you had legal presence here in the United States, we would arrest you on the spot, take you to jail, tow your car, and you were in jail for a felony. That was created after September 11th to aid in fighting terrorism. And it was used, to good effect on both counts, both to fight illegal immigration and to combat terrorism. Well, there was a challenge brought. It actually was a Lafayette case. A challenge was brought up to our elected Supreme Court justices, and our elected Supreme Court determined that that was unconstitutional for the state to tread upon the federal ground of immigration. And that was based on the United States Supreme Court decision of the Arizona case that had gone up. So our elected officials, our elected judiciary decided that Louisiana, just like other states that tried to have laws that affected immigration, had no jurisdiction. So we literally have no...
Municipalities in the state of Louisiana they don't really have any jurisdiction when it comes to illegals and sanctuary cities and none of that. That all comes through the federal government.
Absolutely don't. Now, there is a program, and it was in existence, and I talked about this during the campaign. The 287G program, it allows a sheriff or chief of police to have their personnel deputized as immigration enforcement officers.
Okay.
But here's the problem with that. Okay, let's say that the people of Lafayette Parish determined that this is a problem in Lafayette Parish that needs to be dealt with. I assure you it's not our biggest problem. Okay, heroin and fentanyl and crimes related to that are our biggest problem. But let's say we suspend that and we say that's our biggest problem. We want to do something about it. We cannot afford, without additional funding, to put a bunch of suspected, undocumented people from this community in jail. Lafayette Parish Correctional Center already stays full. We divert as many people as we can to save the taxpayers' money on correctional dollars that are spent. We rehabilitate everyone that we can. We have every person that's eligible on work release in this community, where they work a normal day job and they keep up with their child support and they actually earn money that they're going to have when they get out. We are maxed out. If we want to do this, and I can do it, we will have to coordinate with Oakdale, and we're going to fill up some buses, but they're not going to be booked into my jail. They're not going to spend a night here at y'all's taxpayers' expense, where I'm going to be on the bill for their medical, and liable for what happens to them.
So basically, when you come across something that's dealing with illegals, you catch, you confirm, you verify what you can with ICE or whoever. They come in, they got to take over because you're done at that point.
It's worked.
Am I close by that?
It's worked seamlessly since I took office. What I did is I contacted ICE before I wrote this letter on July 13th. This is a busy 2 weeks, right? I just took office as sheriff of Lafayette Parish. I contacted the administration in New Orleans, and I asked them to come and sit with me and my command staff. They were kind enough to do so. They came to Lafayette. We sat down face to face at the conference room table. I told them what our issues were, that we could not afford to just hold people indefinitely. We had held them for way beyond 2 weeks in the past at our own expense. They have medical needs. They decide that they have a toothache. They decide they have a heart problem. It costs us thousands of dollars. Come to find out, one of the problems, it was very simple. The number that the jail had been calling was actually the mobile phone number of an ICE agent who had been transferred. No one had bothered to even try to find a different phone number.
Wow. Wow. It makes it tough.
Right. So, everyone agreed that they were going to come get them within 48 hours. And I told them, nothing personal, guys, but at the 46th hour, you're going to get a fax from me saying it's been 46 hours and you got 2 hours left. Another one at 47 hours and another one at the 48th hour. That way, my file is documented. I did everything in good faith to comply and help you enforce federal law. But I'm not going to expose the Lafayette taxpayers to this liability of keeping someone beyond that. I'm already taking enough of a chance in the 48-hour window. It has worked absolutely flawlessly since that time.
Yeah, it's a tough issue, and since you're dealing with federal law and state law and local law, the average person will never know what you just talked about. So, anything else you want to add?
No, it's been working great. Lafayette is not a sanctuary city. I appreciate you bringing this issue up.
I wanted to say that again because I didn't realize one little entity put that out. And I never thought it was anyway. Matter of fact, when that was put out, everybody was kind of shocked that was even put out like that.
Well, and let me talk a little bit about the Centers for Immigration Studies. I did notify them, and it took them a little while, but we are off of there now. I think maybe we're listed as a former sanctuary city because they don't want to badmouth Lafayette, Louisiana. They have nothing against us. But they're so proud that we switched. And changed our practices before this even became a national issue, that they try to use us as an example for other jurisdictions.
And that's pretty cool. That's good PR. It's good for Louisiana. It's good for Lafayette.
Right, exactly.
Sheriff, it's a pleasure, man.
Likewise.
God bless. Appreciate. Watch some of the people you're hiring over here. I'm joking. He's got somebody working for him that's a good friend of mine. All right, we're going to take a break. More of the Moon Griffon Show right after this.